Here is my Kenmore model 417 washer that I'm going to replace the boot seal on. I discovered that I needed to replace the boot seal when I replaced the shock absorbers and saw that rust on the front there that made it difficult to get the screws out. So I knew I had a problem and needed to replace the boot seal. I got the boot seal from a local appliance repair parts store. They actually had one in stock. It was $120. All the videos on the internet that I saw showing how to remove the boot seal said it was necessary to remove the top and front panel to replace the boot seal. The instructions that came with the boot seal I got said you did not need to do that. You did not need to remove the front panel. So since that was so much trouble, I decided to try it without removing the front panel. The very first step in that is to remove the spring clip that holds the boot seal onto the front panel. The internet videos showed them removing it with a spring removal tool. I just used a cotter pin puller to grab the loop there and pull it out. Once you get it loose, it basically unzips from the whole panel in just a second. Once you get the spring band off, the next step is to peel the boot seal off of a lip on the front panel. And that's very easy. You just grab it and pull it sort of down and out, and it comes right out. And then you just kind of work your way around all the way around the boot panel, the boot seal. Pay attention as you go around removing that boot seal to sort of the top and bottom marks that are on the boot seal and on the washing machine front panel. There's a little embossed arrow on the front panel and a tab on the boot seal. That's important later to align the boot seal as you install it. Once you get the boot seal off the front panel, you have to disconnect the boot seal from whatever it's connected to. In my case, it's only the water filler. Some have a light, and I think some have other attachments as well, a drain maybe. In any case, it's a simple spring clamp that you can remove with a screwdriver. You just slip it in there and turn, and it unsnaps. Now comes the second hardest part of the whole operation, removing the boot seal from the inner drum. The instructions that came with my boot seal said pull up and out to get the boot seal off, and that works. You have to pull up pretty good. The spring clamp is holding it on there, and there's a little tab at the top that locates the boot seal. When I did it, I pulled not up enough, more out, and the little tab broke off. I think that's only for indexing. It didn't seem like the end of the world, so I just kept going. But that's a little bit of a wrinkle. So once you get that boot seal started, it pretty much takes itself off. I just took this picture kind of halfway in. You can see the spring clamp there. It's in a groove at the back, and you just kind of pull down and out, and it'll come out. In my case, there was a little bit of water in that boot seal at the bottom, so that kind of spills out. It's probably something good to remember, but basically it comes off easily. So once you get the old boot seal off, time to put the new one on. I spent some time and cleaned up the groove, the lip that the boot seal grabs on the inner drum, and then you prepare the boot seal. Just pour a little dishwashing soap in the groove and spread it all around to lubricate it as it goes on. Orient it correctly. It should be fairly self-explanatory. The filler's at the top, and just sort of hook it onto the lip. It goes pretty easily. Now comes the hardest part of the whole operation. That's putting the spring clamp on the inner drum portion of the boot seal. The instructions that came with mine were fairly vague. It said basically slip it into the groove. It came, my boot seal came with two spacers to sort of wedge the spring clamp into the groove. In this case, I used the front panel to wedge the things in, so if the front panel had been off, I don't know how I would have done it. So to my mind, maybe having the front panel on made it easier because it gave me something to wedge that spring clamp in. In any case, after a little cussing and the spring clamp popping off 20 times, I sort of got it figured out and it went in. So here's a shot. You can see I took a peek in there to make sure that the spring clamp was in the groove properly. Actually, this is probably a good idea to do before you remove the spring clamp so you'll recognize what it's supposed to look like. Anyway, I ran the mirror all the way around the boot seal to make sure that the groove, or that the spring clamp was in the groove all the way around. So that's it. It's basically done. You have to hook up whatever you have to hook up to your boot seal. In case of me, as I said, just the filler. You can see that other plug for if you have a light. That's where the light goes. And if you had a drain, it would be down at the bottom, I think. And then you reverse the process to put the outer lip onto the front panel and put the spring clamp on. That's a piece of cake, no problem. And then you're done. All in all, it took me about, I think, about an hour to do this. That includes the time to clean up the inner drum lip before I put the new boot seal on. Here it is running. I tried to take a picture of it to show that there's no leak, as there was before. And that's about it.